Well, for more, let's go to a man who served as U.S. ambassador to Egypt under Bill Clinton, and then David Kurtzer, serving as U.S. ambassador to Israel under President George W. Bush. Today he teaches at Princeton University's Woodrow Wilson Center. Thank you for speaking with us on France 24.
My pleasure.
What's going to be, first of all, the fate of this bill? We understand that the courts could well strike it down.
Well, there is an expectation that the bill will be struck down by the Israeli Supreme Court. Apparently, the Israeli Attorney General has made clear that he will not defend that bill in the Supreme Court, believing it is against both Israeli law as well as international law. So the prospect is probably high that it will be struck down, but the political impact of its having been passed, I think, will be with us for some time to come.
Political impact, and just explain for our viewers who don't follow the minutiae of Israel. A week ago, we were showing those spectacular images of police pulling out hardline settlers from a wildcat settlement in the West Bank, fulfilling what had been a court order from 2014. Why is this bill coming now in the wake of that?
Well, you know, this story goes back a couple of decades. Since the mid-1990s, no Israeli government has built a new legal settlement, legal under Israeli law. Instead, settlers have built these outposts, as they're called. There's more than 100 of them in an effort to circumvent the government laws and government regulations. As early as the early 2000s, the Prime Minister Ariel Sharon promised to take those illegal settlements down. And there's been this tug of war between the settlers and the government, the Supreme Court, over the fate of these illegal outposts. This one outpost of Amona, which was taken down in the course of violence over the past few days, sparked a reaction on the part of Israel's right-wing coalition, which extracted from the government a promise to then do something in compensation for taking down this one illegal outpost. And so you have this bill that retroactively legalizes some of the outposts, and you have a commitment now for additional settlement construction, which was announced last week.
We've seen the new U.S. administration blow hot and cold when it comes to those illegal settlements. Has that been a factor?
I think very much it's been a factor. You know, Prime Minister Netanyahu will be visiting Washington next Wednesday and expects to get, if not a green light from Mr. Trump, certainly a yellow light to proceed cautiously, but without very much U.S. reaction. Trump, last December, before he became president, denounced the UN Security Council resolution. And the administration so far has been pretty silent on these Israeli announcements. There was only one cautionary note issued a couple of days ago, but most people are seeing that as a request by Trump to Netanyahu not to talk about these things before they have a chance to meet. So I think Netanyahu comes to Washington believing that he will gain the support of President Trump for some level of settlement activity that will pacify the right wing in Israel.
A lot of those illegal settlers are also U.S. citizens. I have a question for you. When you were ambassador to Israel, how thorny an issue was it?
Well, it's a thorny issue for the Israeli government. The people who retain their citizenship have a right to vote. They got some services from us, renewal of passports and so forth. But it's really a problem for the country in which they now live in Israel. And many of the settlers in the West Bank, formerly many of the settlers in Gaza, in fact, retained their U.S. citizenship. And we saw during the election campaign this past year, they were a very vocal group, largely supporting Mr. Trump's candidacy.
David Kurtzer, back in December, you wrote an unequivocal op-ed piece in the New York Times where you denounced the naming of attorney David Friedman as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. You wrote, Mr. Trump would be wise to follow the tradition of appointing an experienced professional. Mr. Friedman is not that person. How's it going so far on that level?
Well, it's hard to tell. Friedman's nomination has not yet been submitted to the Senate for a confirmation, and therefore it's hard to tell whether or not he will gain the support of the Senate. I think it's likely that he will. As you know, there's a battle over other cabinet level appointees, including the proposed Secretary of Education. And it's unlikely, therefore, that the Senate will draw a line on this ambassador. But I think it is important to understand that he is going representing a very small minority of Americans, representing a view which is quite extreme, even in Israel, and has been quite critical of American supporters of Israel, those with whom he does not agree. So he's going to have a tough road and an uphill battle just to establish credibility, assuming he gets confirmed by the United States Senate.
And just very briefly on that point, how have Jews in the United States reacted to the nomination, in your view?
Well, as we know, about 75% of the American Jewish community voted for Hillary Clinton. So there is a predisposition to be in opposition to much of what Mr. Trump is doing. And we've seen that with regard to his other appointees, including his nominee for this U.S. Supreme Court. There have been a number of editorials in Jewish newspapers in the United States opposing the nomination of David Friedman as the ambassador. But again, this issue has become a little bit less prominent given some of the very extreme nominees that Mr. Trump has made for other cabinet positions. And that's taken a lot of the energy out of the opposition to Mr. Friedman.
David Kurtzer, thank you for speaking with us from Princeton University.
My pleasure.